Welcome to the Building Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Dom Tarjanskis, and join us as we explore the world of construction. Each episode, we welcome a guest that shares career highlights and career advice, and hopefully inspires the next generation of construction professionals.
Welcome to another episode of Building Your Career podcast. Today, I'm excited to have as a guest Deano Giorgio, who's a director at Coniston, someone I've had the pleasure of working with in the past before. So we'll start where we always start off. If you could, Dino, if you could tell us a little bit more about your current job role and about the business as well, it'd be great to hear from you.
Yeah, so thanks, Dom. My name's Dino, one of the directors at Coniston Limited. We're a London and South East based heritage conservation specialist contractor. Predominantly our work is within the sort of grade 1, grade 2 listed buildings across multiple sectors, so residential, education, commercial. A core of the business is heritage, which includes sort of museums, churches, some fantastic buildings within central London. We've got some ancient monuments. We've worked at the Royal Naval College and Dover Town Hall at the moment. Some fantastic projects to have as part of the portfolio, really. Role of a director for myself, overseeing a number of the projects, specifically within London for myself. We've got a team of directors that cover other aspects of the business, just ensuring that we're looking forward to the future of developing our business and the exciting projects we work on.
Definitely, and I think it's a really good point, particularly for some of our younger listeners as well, is that it's not always new build skyscrapers, particularly in the London area, that you might have the pleasure of working on. There are, kind of historic buildings, and as you say, grade 1 and grade 2 listed buildings that sometimes do get overlooked, but there's a whole world of construction opportunities out there to work on some really exciting projects, and something that I'm passionate about myself is the historic side of things.
Yeah, definitely. We work across, we're actually lucky enough to work in some fantastic buildings and get behind the scenes of buildings that other people generally wouldn't get the opportunity to go into and have a look around. We're on a number of frameworks within London and the South East that give us access to some of the country's most highly regarded buildings. It infuses our employees that they are working on some very special buildings and restoring the original features and the history of those buildings and the structures around them, to bring them up to modern day standards and the current requirements of the users, that they are different to when the building was originally built, and everyone has to function in a way that they get the most out of their private residence or their workplace, and enhancing the stock of buildings we've got in this country is something that we are very passionate about.
Definitely, and I think it's something that, personally for me, when I was an architect working on, listed buildings, it was exciting because no projects were ever the same. There was always challenges or issues that you didn't think were ever going to happen, that you just had to think outside the box and deal with as the project was going along, really. So in my opinion, it's a lot, there's a lot of exciting things that can happen on that one project that you just didn't even ever expect.
Yeah, definitely. It's always you map out how you're going to get from A to B and complete the project successfully, but it wouldn't be construction if there wasn't a load of curveballs that just come at you every day, and opening up investigations and sort of early engagement is really important across the projects, and understanding the structure we're working with and what we need to do to accommodate it, really.
Brilliant. So if we can kind of turn back the hands of time and go back to the very start of your career, can you tell us why you decided to pursue a career in construction, and how you first started off and how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, so there is a history of construction in the family. That my dad was employed through a trade background, and have sort of grown up around building and construction, and it wasn't sort of something I fell into naturally. That I wasn't really sure when I left school what I wanted to do, and had a bit of time out, worked for a groundworks and civil engineering company for a little bit, and sort of enjoyed it and thought, what are my options within this industry? I don't want to limit myself and sort of just develop with a company. I want to actually look at the education background and degrees. Decided to go off to university and do a construction management degree in Leeds. Did the first 2 years full time, and then went off to do my placement year with a company that was called Wallace Interiors, that got included within the Kia Group towards the end of my time there. I did a year on a placement, and the project I was in, I was really enjoying, and actually converted that degree course to a London-based university and stayed on to do like a day release for my final year, which dragged it out over 2 years, only 1 day a week, but gave me that opportunity to put into action everything that I was learning at uni physically on site, and it just really rounded me that I was surrounded by a lot of professional people that had been through a similar route, and tradesmen, and there's a whole resource available within the business that it really enabled me to get the most out of my degree, and the understanding on the practical side alongside the theory side you're learning at uni, and all of a sudden everything just clicks into place, and you think, oh, that's why I've been learning this at university, because it's watching the reality of you're going through a programming module at university and learning how to program a shed or something very basic, and then on site you're looking at a program that's got 350, 400 bars on it, and thinking, oh, this is where I want to get to. And you get that opportunity sitting with a planner in the office, and he explains a lot more detail to you, that you just pick it up so much quicker when it's a real life environment. Following on from that, sort of completed my university degree, construction management, and worked my way up from assistant site manager, project manager, and then through contracts management and into director level. Obviously had a bit of time in each role and really enjoyed it. Really got a lot out of each role as well in developing into the next position, and getting a good understanding of each role, how it leads into different relationships and different understandings of construction. It's not just about building the project, it's about developing a relationship with an architect or a QS at a project management company, and you get different exposure at different levels of your career, don't you? And it's interesting to see how they all suddenly click into place, and you understand why you were doing something 5 years ago that's enabled you to do what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there, is that there's so many different, not just personalities, but so many different disciplines that are associated with each particular build. So you're not just talking to people from your company, you're talking to people from different disciplines, such as civil engineering, groundworks, architects, interior designers, facade specialists, roofing specialists. So naturally, when you're working in the industry, and this is kind of a common theme, that, you know, the best thing to do, as you did, was just get that site experience. And even though it extended, you know, your kind of university by an extra year, I think it's invaluable to have that experience on site and talk to people and ask people those questions. Because I was the same as you. I was at university and I knew how to draw stuff on a computer and on a piece of paper, but when it came to actually being based on site and how it all got put together, I just got a job as a labourer, and I was at Leeds University as well. So got a job as a labourer on Saturdays and Sundays, and I learned more being on site and just asking questions than I did sat in the classroom. So yeah, I think, you know, a lot of people on this podcast are a big advocate of that site experience.
Yeah, you wouldn't understand it as how invaluable that is as well. That it's not, you're learning from the people you're in an office with, but you're also learning from all the tradesmen on site, and you can't put a value on a carpenter who's had 30 years experience and the knowledge that they've got and how they overcome issues that arise on site, and the solution that they come up with is sometimes so simple, but it's their knowledge that enables them to come up with that solution. And you just develop that over years of, you've encountered this on one project, the industry we work in and the type of buildings we work in, there is always a bespoke issue on every project that you haven't come across before, but you know who to sort of get in contact with that will have the experience and expertise of how to come up with a solution to that.
Definitely. So again, if we could go back to the very start, if you could give yourself one piece of advice when you first started off in the construction industry, what would you tell your younger self when you were first starting out?
I think it is the experience factor of it, that I went to uni on what was originally a full-time course, not sure if I was going to do a placement year or just go through my 3 years of uni and then try and find a job. The placement year changed everything for me, and if I was reliving it and going back to another opportunity, I probably would have signed up to a day release course from day one and had that on-site experience, access to everyone that you get access to through the employment side of it, and taken the full 5 years to do a 5-year day release course, and just learnt so much through that process that from day one you are then putting theory and practical together, and it sort of works very well.
Are you a job seeker, tired of endlessly scrolling through job boards with no success? Has your job search hit a dead end? Well, we're here to tell you there's another way. Here at Quest Personnel, we offer a variety of free resources to help job seekers just like you. Our team of expert recruiters is here to help you through every step of the job search process, from CV writing to interview techniques. But that's not all. We also offer exclusive access to workshops, networking events, and other job roles that you simply won't find anywhere else. So what are you waiting for? Get in touch now on our website, questpersonnel.co.uk.
So if you could just kind of explain to some of our listeners who may never have heard of a day release course, could you just break that down and explain, kind of exactly how that works?
Yeah, so predominantly you would find a contractor who is looking for day release students who are school leavers who've just completed their A levels, or have just completed GCSEs on a HNC course, and us as an employer would offer a prospective student a opportunity with Coniston for a 5-year basis. Through that 5 years, 1 day a week you'll be attending university or college. For the other 4 days, you'll be in full-time employment with us as a contractor, and you're generally site-based through those 4 days a week, and running concurrently your studies with your employment. You move up through various levels in employment, so you'd come in as a management trainee, for example, if you're on the construction side, be assigned a mentor who would be one of our construction managers, project managers, and they would basically be your point of contact when you're in employment 4 days a week. They'd also give you assistance with the 1 day a week you're at university. It's a route that a lot of people are now choosing to do, and it allows early engagement into the industry, and it gives you the support of a business that are there to support you, and you're employed through your studies. So with escalating sort of fees and cost of attending university, etc., it sometimes is beneficial to everyone that the company will generally sponsor you through that period and pay your education fees, and you're also earning some money whilst you're doing it.
And I think it's good to kind of dispel some of those myths as well, is that, particularly with a lot of our listeners, the one thing that they're concerned about is that, that it's just going to be a bit of a sink or swim and a bit of a ruthless environment as well. But as you well says, Coniston are doing it very, very well in terms of, supporting people, shadowing your seniors, learning from them, asking the questions. But more importantly, there are those companies out there where you're not just going to be a number. They do truly care about developing you and developing your career as well, and will be doing so from day one, really.
Yeah, definitely. It's important to find the right fit for yourself as well as an individual, that you have a variety of contractors, for example, or professional designers or architects that offer the courses. It's finding an environment that suits yourself as well. That some people want to go into a tier one structured regimented sort of organisation where you know you're doing 6 months in this department, 4 months in that department before you even start. Some people prefer the fluidity of joining a contractor like us, where it's a little bit less procedure driven, and we'll give people the opportunity to do 6 months in construction management, 6 months in quantity surveying. If someone turns around after 4 months and says, I'm really not enjoying construction management, I want to go into surveying, we're happy to sort of move them across earlier and accommodate them on supporting them in a different route. We're also a smaller business where everyone sort of matters to us in terms of we haven't got a huge training budget, and if we're sort of putting you through university and you're employed, we're actually expecting a good return out of you as well, that you're going to be physically doing the role that you're there for. Like our year one site managers at university who are on a day release course are shadowing a project manager, and everything the project manager does, the site manager is doing on a lesser scale with some support, and slowly taking over the full responsibility of site inductions, method statements, reviews, and sort of merging university studies with training that is offered through the company. So we'll put a year one person at the end of their first year through an SMSTS course when they've got a bit of an understanding of site, and it gives them the whole introduction into site management, safety standards, etc. So it's finding the right time to put that person on that course as well, that we don't want to employ someone and day one they go on a course and it sort of is just too much information and they haven't got the basic understanding they need to get through that course.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that really does lead very nicely onto our next question. And we've already touched on it kind of briefly, but as you well said before, sometimes for whatever reason people can't go to university, or sometimes people do want to do the university route. So what are the different routes that you consider for your sector to get into the industry, whether it's someone just starting out and is a school leaver, or whether it's someone who's kind of maybe wants a bit of a career change, who's a little bit older? So what are the options that are available to people?
There's a lot of options really, and you get opportunities from apprenticeships where you can come in, and if you're looking at a skilled trade, you can join as an apprentice and you'll be put with someone who's a bricklayer who's got 25 years of experience, and gradually go through your MVQ levels and understanding of the trade, and you're learning off that person who's got all the experience next to you. You can come in as, if you want the education background, on a HNC, HND. I'm aware that from current colleges you can do T levels, which are introductions into the industry, instead of A levels, and they give you a good understanding and introduction. You can simply apply for a job and sort of work your way up. We've got people that started as potentially a document controller, admin support, and have worked their way into a management skill of quantity surveying or management, etc. And you can, there's so many different routes basically, and there's also so many different opportunities within every business. You've got estimators, you've got managers, you've got surveyors, you've got site foremen that have worked their way up from a trade into a site foreman level, and then from site foreman to site manager, and you can't put a value on their experience that you put a builder of a site manager with a professional project manager who's come through university, and they work so well together that what the PM who's been to uni is lacking from a knowledge and building understanding, the site manager who's come from a carpentry background is lacking the programming and how to present a formal progress report. And the two of them together make a really good team. And if either one of them was on their own, they probably would be lacking that set of skills.
Yeah, I think that's
also personalities as well, that you've got to find the right personalities that work well together. It's not just knowledge, it's personality. They've got to get on as a team and want to work together.
Yeah, definitely. I think you touched on a really good point there is no matter what route you choose, there's always people around you that you can learn from. You're going to have strengths in one area, someone will have strengths in another area. So I think it goes back to another common theme of this podcast is just to have that inquisitive mindset and just to be asking people the questions, and just be asking people. And as you touched upon there, on one project, you've got your commercial team, you've got your design team, you've got your document controllers and your administrations, you've got your site managers. There's a lot of different things that you can do in a lot of different divisions on one project with the same company. So there's so many different options available.
Yeah, definitely. And it is about building a team that do get on and will share information, and that they will enjoy working together. A bit of a social life maybe with each other, that after work on a Friday go and have a beer or something, and you develop a really good team relationship there that understands each other and it is all going in the right direction for delivering the project successfully.
And just to kind of lead on to our final question as well. So this is always aimed at, maybe some of our more senior management listeners or director level listeners. So with the Chartered Institute of Builders producing a report recently to say we need 250,000 more people in the UK construction industry by 2027. Obviously, there's a big need and a big drive to get the younger generation into the industry and to see it as a viable career path. So what advice would you recommend to some of the more senior management in order to both attract and also to nurture that young talent as well?
I think the most important thing is you get out of it what you put into it. And if you put a lot of effort into training and developing and mentoring younger people into the industry, they want to stay in the industry, and they also speak to a lot of other people that if they're as passionate about it as you are, then they will introduce their friends and family into the industry as well. What you can't do is expect people to come to you and say, hello, I want to work for a construction company. It's not going to happen. You've actually got to go out there and find them and entice them into the industry and say, this is what you're going to get out of it in 6 months' time, a year's time, 5 years' time, and actually show them what the future is. That it's easy for someone to say, oh, I don't fancy that. I could go and work in the city and earn a huge salary, but they can earn a good salary and have a good life working in the construction industry. And it's showing them the route to where they can get to, and being as passionate as a lot of people are about the industry and wanting to work in it.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. And for me, it's more kind of a lifestyle than just a job. I always say I get excited just about holes in the ground. And I clicked on a Google map the other day of a client of mine that are building water pipe ways, and I got really excited just to see a pipe and a hole in the ground. So you can get that bug when you start out, and believe you might be as nerdy as me one day, where you're actually getting excited about just holes in the ground and concrete being poured.
Yeah, no, there is, and I think that's what is very unique about us as a business as well, that we do have some very interesting and exciting projects, and it enthuses people to come to work. That there's different aspects of construction, and we do make it as interesting as possible for everyone we employ, and that's from the directly employed people at Coniston to our supply chain and subcontractors, and they engage with us because they're excited about the project, and we build a bit of like teamwork between us and the supply chain and the client side, that we're all there for one purpose, to deliver a successful project, and you create a bit of a buzz around it, don't you?
Definitely. Well, Dino, thank you so much for being a guest. It was really good to get kind of an insight from the different type of construction that you do in that heritage and conservation space. So it was absolutely amazing having you as a guest, and thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Dom. It's been really enjoyable.
So, brilliant. Sorry, Dino, I'll edit this bit out. If you could just, when I press stop recording, if you could just stay for a couple of minutes, just because it uploads the video from your end. So I'll just edit that last bit out, but give me
Perfect.
2 seconds, mate. Let me just stop the record.
Thank you for joining us on the Building Your Career podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our guest and learning about the different career paths available. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe so we can reach even more listeners. And if anyone wants any free CV advice or simply wants to know the options available to them, don't hesitate to get in touch.